Fabiano, very nice to meet you. How was your trip?
It was pretty easy. I was in Europe, so
Okay, so you were already somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
You were.
Well, it's still a bit of. It's a bit difficult to get here, so it's still 2 flights, but
Yeah.
not the longest
Even
trip
from
ever.
the place in Europe that you were already.
Yeah, still
Wow.
still 2 flights, and there's some flight cancellations too, but I luckily didn't get affected by anything. So
That's great. That's great. Okay. Well, this is your 6th Canada's tournament.
yeah.
My question is, what do you know now that you didn't know back in 2016 in your first Canada's?
I didn't approach it badly. Like I was actually close to winning that 2016 candidates.
Right.
You know, I went into the last round sharing first with Sergei Karyakin, but the tiebreak system back then was that there was no playoff, so it was most wins. So if we drew our last game, he would win the tournament because he had won 3 games and lost 1, and I had won 2 games and lost 0.
Right.
And I had to win with the black pieces. It was a difficult situation. Yeah,
Right.
he beat me in that final game. So I didn't do anything bad in terms of my approach. You know, my preparation, I think, was kind of amateurish in a sense. There was like 1 week camp before the tournament. Prepared a bunch of openings. One of them was losing. I prepared it against Anish.
Okay.
Sacrificed 4 pawns in the opening. Like I actually gave away 4 pawns. Was dead lost, and then one of the toughest games I've ever played. I drew the game after like nearly 7 hours. Like
What opening was this?
it was a Grunfeld, anti-Grunfeld with F3,
Okay.
which that I drew the game was an absolute miracle. And then I forget which round it was, maybe round 7, and then rounds 8 and 9 I won, and I started to like have a very decent chance of winning the tournament.
Right.
So even your first time, like knowing nothing, having no experience, it's still you can perform pretty well, and it really comes down to how you play in the moment. It's not so much. I mean, preparation is important. You know, a lot of stuff matters, but really, it's are you in a good state of mind during the tournament? Are you fighting
Even
well?
after a loss, that's what I'm taking from this.
I didn't lose a game in that
Oh.
tournament though.
So a bad game.
Yeah.
So you drew that game.
Yeah, I drew the
against
game.
Anish.
Yeah. But it was very, very motivating that I survived that game, and then I was able to score 2 important wins with the white pieces against
Right.
Hikaru and against Vishy Anand, who were, there was no like favorites in the tournament, I think, because everyone was
So strong.
around the same rating. But definitely you would point to guys like Vishy or Levon, as Vishy had just won the previous candidates, as like some of the favorites. So yeah, I definitely took lessons from all the candidates tournaments that I played.
What is something that you took out of 2018, which you won, and that you're taking for this one here?
Yeah, it's, I think the preparation for that event was really good. It's difficult to say why, because I prepared some openings that now looking back seem a bit silly, but they worked so well in the moment. Like I prepared the Catalan with Queen B3. It's like not at all dangerous. And
Right.
right after that candidates, I started playing Catalan with Queen B3 again, and everyone equalized without any issues.
Right.
But during the tournament, I beat Wesley in the first round. I got a winning position against Ding. Okay, maybe not entirely related to opening, but I was putting pressure on him the whole game.
Well, surprise is huge.
Yeah, it was just such a good opening choice, and I don't know why. And then some decisions during the tournament were also really good, but these are very circumstantial. Like the preparation I had for Levon in round 13 turned out to be excellent. I prepared an opening that gave me a huge advantage out of very early on in the game.
What was the opening?
It was an anti-martial, and Grishuk it wasn't even my idea, it was Grishuk's idea. He played an early bishop d2. He had played it against Levon, and then I decided just to repeat the same line against. It would never work these days, but back then it somehow you could get away with these things. I also lost a very important game. I don't know, to take lessons away from why that happened or why I won my last 2 games. It's just very, very difficult to say. I mean, I think the most important thing is to kind of keep your motivation, keep your spirit. I also learned things from other players, like how Karyakin, in 2018, he started with 1 out of 4. He lost 2 games. First round he lost, and he was leading after 12 rounds, the tournament.
Wow.
So there's a lot to learn also from how other players are able to make comebacks and how sometimes you see players collapse. You know, I collapsed in 2022. These like there's a lot of things you could learn from your own play, also from other people's play.
Wow, very interesting. And when approaching a tournament like this, looking at the field, who is someone that either reminds you of those days where it's very well it's a I would say this time around it's a less experienced field than back in the 2016 2018. So my question is there anyone you had to prepare against as much as back then, like coming into this tournament, and if so, who?
Yeah, things have changed in general in the chess world. Yeah, if I think back to like my first candidates, you know, it was a lot of players from the previous generation, Anand and Topalov, and in 2018 I also Kramnik. I mean, there's a lot of players. It wasn't as young as now. It could just be a sign of the times.
Yeah.
Chess is speeding up in some ways. We do also have players that, okay, probably for the young guys, they look at us as old, like Anish or I or Hikaru.
Was fairly common in previous candidates 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you wouldn't even call those players old.
Exactly, just normal.
So, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's just how the chess world is now. Chess players are getting stronger, a bit younger. That's not a huge surprise. I mean, we also saw like Erdogmus, 14, 15 years old, is competing pretty much at the highest level, right?
Wow.
Fully in Vikings, fully at the highest level. So, yeah, I don't know what the reason for that is, but it could also just be the amount of information we get so quickly, and they're able to assimilate it.
Oh,
and
it's crazy.
And we didn't have access to that. You know, if you go back 10 years, you had to kind of go through the work, and it took months and months to go through anything to get to the level of a player who's been playing for years in just one thing. So there was a lot less access. That's probably the reason why. In terms of like preparing for individual opponents, it's also gotten more difficult because you can't really target players. Nobody has opening weaknesses like they used to. So
Wow.
direct targeted preparation is, I mean, it happens sometimes, but it's very unlikely. Like you can get lucky, but yeah, for the most part, you don't count on knocking someone out in the opening.
Versus 10 years ago, were there some opening weaknesses in particular players that you recount?
You wouldn't even call them weaknesses. It's just that you would find a place where they had, you know, it's not like they did something wrong, but
Right.
but you just couldn't always get everything perfect. It was just very difficult. So you could find spots where their analysis was lacking, yeah, or their knowledge was lacking. And you'll find games where people lost from the opening.
And nowadays, you would say that's not as much the case.
If it happens, it's kind of shocking, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like Niemann Fedoseev in Tata Steel, that's like an anomaly, you would
Yeah,
say.
absolutely shocking.
Wow,
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when I saw that game, I mean, of course, it was even back then it would be a bit of a surprise because he usually shouldn't just be losing massive amounts of material. It was just a blunder, which can happen. But yeah, these days you don't see it happen too often. In Vikings, it happened surprisingly often, I have to say. Like also, Fedoseev lost against Erdogmus in the Petrov, basically from the opening again. So, of course, can happen, but yeah, it's exceedingly rare, I would say, these days.
In round one, you play Hikaru. And historically, your record against Hikaru in Classical has been a little bit tough. How do you plan on reversing that specifically for this tournament? And have you had some specific preparation or overall mindset change approaching him for the round one?
Not in particular. Okay, my record with Hikaru is very long. I mean, in the early days, I had a very tough time against him.
Yeah.
We're going back to like
2010.
yeah, 11, 12. And then I reversed things completely around 2015
Yeah.
and 2016 and up until the pandemic hit. Yeah, basically, I had a very good score for those few years. And then after 2022, after the candidates in Madrid, then things went downhill for many games. So Yeah, it's been a very. I mean, there's no reason to mince words. Very bad score against Hikaru for the last few years, and obviously my games against him will be important here. But he's only one opponent, so I'm going to have to play well against everybody, and I don't take the memory of those games into this tournament.
That's so good. And is that difficult to have that mental strength to like reject that historical past against certain players?
No, I mean, of course, you remember your score, and it's not fun to.
Okay, it lives
Yeah.
within you. Some
Yeah.
people can just like reject that, I suppose.
Well, you can kind of emotionally forget about it. I mean, of
Yes.
course, it's not like I have amnesia, but emotionally, I can. I mean, it's always a blank slate. Every game is a blank slate. So that's, and I think the main thing is, my games against Hikaru, they might matter very much for the final tournament standings, for my tournament, for his tournament, or for others, but they might also be totally irrelevant, right?
Right.
It might just be two rather uneventful draws. Can also happen. I mean, so I don't really know what we're going into, but it's going to be more about how I play rather than about who I'm facing.
Right. With your experience in these top flight double round robins, having played so many candidates, what's your experience over the players who don't have as much experience? So we have a lot of first timers in this one. Isipenko, Sindarov, Blue Bomb, etc. What do you think are your advantages over those players? And how does that translate into real, tangible, in-game advantages?
I mean, definitely experience is good.
Yeah.
It's better to know what you might be getting into, what's happened in the past, to be kind of more mentally prepared for it. Yeah, these are important things. I don't know if it's going to have a tangible effect. That's another question. Because it's, sometimes freshness is good, sometimes experience is good, sometimes you need a mix. And will I find a balance or will other players find a balance? I don't know. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to speculate, but yeah, to actually have an accurate idea, we only will find out in the next few weeks.
Okay. You're basically saying we don't know, but some could crack because of their lack of experience in such a long format and such a arduous kind of tournament.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think, okay, players crack for sure. That happens inevitably in every tournament. Mm-hmm. You just might not pay much attention to it because usually you remember the winners, right? And not the players who fell apart at the end. But it happens inevitably in every tournament. So that part is a given. The more interesting thing is the players who are playing well can also crack. That can happen as well. So that's more eventful because then you have players who are fighting for first, but they fall apart. And that happens also in every tournament. But yeah, I don't know why. I mean, that it happens for sure. It's because of the pressure. If experience helps with that, I actually don't know, because pressure is something that you kind of feel internally, and even if you're really expecting it, or know that it's a factor, that doesn't mean that you can accurately deal with it. Mm-hmm. It's difficult for everyone. Even players who have won the candidates have cracked, like Magnus in 2013 when he won. I mean, he had a very shaky second half. Right. He lost the last round. He also lost to White against Ivanchuk.
He lost the last round, exactly.
Yeah, he even lost the last round with White against Peter Svidler.
Cost his whole tournament.
Yeah, easily could have. I mean, in 2018 when I won, I also, you could say, cracked in the 12th round against Karyakin. I was a point ahead of him. I lost a direct encounter, giving him basically the lead. So even players who win, they often crack. I mean, the only thing you can really take away from that is that it happens. No matter how good you are, it happens, and it's very hard to avoid it. Mm-hmm. But you can try.
Okay, I have some fan questions. They're interesting. Is my camera still not? Okay. That camera's a problem. I have some fan questions. They're more interesting, but they're a bit risky. If you want to pass them, just say pass.
Sure.
Take me into a day of your training.
Well, I'll talk during the tournament, because it's definitely different when I'm at home. But during the tournament, it's very much concentrated on the next player in front of you. and you decide just your openings in pretty much any direction you can think of, but it usually covers every direction. At least you know what you're going to play against. If you're white and you play e4, and you know, sure they never play the knight dwarf, but if they do, at least I have this in mind. And then it's also based on having a good meal and taking a walk or something. Sleep is important. Probably try to get 8 hours of sleep. So the preparation, you could say, starts the night before, because you finish your game,
Yep.
you immediately start thinking about your next opponent. So you
The second the pairings are out is what I say.
Yeah.
Is when the game starts.
yeah, I have some experience in a recent open tournament where I'm waiting for the pairings, but here it's already clear
Yeah.
a month before all my opponents.
So different.
Well, yeah, I played in the St. Louis Masters, and it was even 2 games a day, and you'd only find your opponent maybe half an hour or an hour before, right? So that's obviously very different.
Those games are hard because
Yeah.
again, people with very new faces that you don't know that much about.
Sure.
And
Yeah, you have to decide
30 minutes.
what to play, and it's difficult decisions. Here, of course, it's very different. You kind of have some idea, more or less, what you want to be playing in general against certain opponents, but a lot of it also happens during the tournament. You get new information based on what your opponent's playing, and you adjust. So, I'll see what my opponent's playing. Of course, that might change my thought process compared to before the tournament, when I had very little information on what they might be preparing before. But yeah, a lot of it is also trying to get your mind off chess a little bit. At least you're thinking about chess during the game, and also when you're looking at your opponent on the computer, in terms of preparation. But in the meantime, you probably don't want to be thinking about chess 24/7. So trying to take your mind off chess for a little bit.
Super important. Very sweet. Last game of your life. Who would you like to play against?
Like, I can choose anyone in the world. or-
Anyone in the world who's alive.
Oh, okay. I think I'd probably choose Levon. I mean, I've maybe played against him more than anyone else. So why not?
There you go.
We have a long history.
This is such a spicy question. Do you think the candidates selection process needs a change?
No, I don't think so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't see
wasn't
why.
expecting that.
I mean, people can look at the ratings and think, okay, sure, there was no Keimer, there was no Noterbeck, no Arjun, like 3 of the top players of recent times, 3 of the top of the rating list.
Yeah.
It's a very logical thing to think. But they all had a chance. They all participated in the qualification cycle. And I mean, what do you want to do? Pick the rating system 1 month before the tournament? Otherwise, you're going to find, you can either do that, and honestly, it would save everyone a lot of money. It would also destroy the entire chess ecosystem leading up to candidates. So there would be no World Cup, there would be no Grand Swiss, all these tournaments that people enjoy.
Yes.
People like to follow the FIDE circuit and all these things. You can change the FIDE circuit, you can make it a Grand Prix, you can do this or that. But if you have no qualification process, then it gets very boring. And if you have a qualification process, then you have to accept that, there's players who they're super strong, but they didn't achieve the result at the right time. It's not, I mean, obviously Noterbeck is one of the best players in the world, and recently
Has been on a phenomenal ride.
yeah, recently he's won everything that he's played pretty much. But in the last months of 2024 and 2025, he didn't have great results.
Right.
And Arjun was very close, but he had to, he had some crucial games. Like he lost against, in one tournament in India, he was leading the tournament. I think he lost against Aravind in a very crucial game. If he had drawn the game, probably he would have qualified to the candidates. And if he had won the last round against Yasipenko in Qatar Masters, I think it was Qatar Masters, then he probably would have qualified for the candidates. So with Vincent, I mean, it's just like one moment. He was beating Blue Bomb. He was winning the game objectively in an endgame, and he didn't win the game. And Blue Bomb qualified because of that, and he didn't. I mean, how can you blame the system when it was a direct encounter?
The more you're talking about it, the more I'm like,
Yeah,
you're right. They had their chance.
everyone had their chance. That's not to take away from them. I mean, since Noterbeck didn't qualify, he's had the best results of any player in the world. I mean, he won London Classic, he won Bakenze, he won this recent tournament, I forget the Prague Masters. But okay, I mean, you can't extend the qualification process forever until the right guy qualifies, right? The qualification process was this period to this period, and his results weren't good enough in that period. So what can you do?
Yeah, I guess in the 2010s there was a spot or a couple spots for like the highest rated who played in the World Cup.
There was a rating spot,
There was
but there is a rating spot now too. Hikaru
yes,
took the
but
rating
it's a
spot.
different type of rating spot. You don't have to have I guess if a
Well-
car plays in the World Cup, he's in. So he would have just
To
played.
be honest,
the World Cup.
I don't know why they changed that. It made sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the rating spot was controversial when Ding Liren took it, I think, as well, because he hadn't played actively at all.
Right.
And then he played these tournaments, like whatever it was, 28 games in a span of 2 weeks, just to get the rating spot without participating in any of the qualification process. Yeah, it's kind of the same for Hikaru. Yeah, I mean, which I think, yeah, that's the part I would probably change. I mean, then you have to, if you get the rating spot, you have to play at least in one of the qualifying events. It's a very minor change, but at least it feels more like there's not that inactivity that goes along with the rating spot, which is very often the case. Even like Topalov, 1 year qualified for the rating spot, was totally inactive. I forget which year it was though. Also, when Anish qualified for the rating spot for the 2020 candidates in 2019, he withdrew from the Grand Swiss. I think I'm getting this right. I hope I'm not wrong about this. Because he didn't want to lose his rating spot, which he had gotten.
Wow.
So
I didn't know this.
yeah, the rating spot is always a bit strange. Like, you shouldn't sacrifice activity for preserving, because it's also a historical thing. Like, you were a 800 player this year. That doesn't mean that you'll perform 2800 next year. Now, I don't know. I mean, there's no doubt that Hikaru, based on his results, is a very deserving player in this candidates. But I would still probably change the system just not to allow that.
Okay.